Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 50 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 98, Move Along. High above Mission City, Nevada, the Decepticon warship, Desolation, loomed like a dark shadow, a constant reminder of the scrambling citizens' imminent doom. The city itself was already wrought with chaos, as normal everyday people rushed to evacuate while the local heroes did everything in their power to aid them. Unfortunately, however, a majority of those heroes were already preoccupied, fending off the villainous pretenders and the society of unconventional villainy. Which meant that there were less heroes to aid in evacuations and thus an even more congested roadway. Vehicles were bumper to bumper, people on foot were running for their lives with whatever they could carry in their arms, and law enforcement were trying desperately to instill a sense of calm in the people to no avail. And all the while, inside the warship itself, Decepticon medic Flatline was quite irritated. The invasion proper hadn't even begun, and yet there he was, already having to make repairs on an injured Decepticon, or, at least, part of one. There we go. He sighed with a bit of a grumbly voice. You are all set, Hook. The Constructicon second-in-command pushed himself off his stomach and up onto his feet, all while Devastator's head folded back into his body. Thank you very much, Doctor. It's always a privilege to see your work, let alone be worked on by you. Flatline shook his head, burying himself in a data pad. Yes, very good. But be warned. He pointed a stern finger at the crane bot, who recoiled a bit. Do not expect me to do these again should the same thing happen again today. I am well aware that the 6 of you are incapable of thinking clearly while in the form of Devastator, but the least you brutes can do is make sure to cover your damn head. Am I clear? Why yes, sir. Hook saluted. Good. Now, we should get down to the bridge. Starscream has called for a meeting before the invasion. Hook briskly walked ahead of Flatline, not wanting to stick around and get berated any longer. Once the two cons made it to the Desolation's bridge, they found that every single Decepticon and Predacon on board had already gathered there, standing on the lower deck while Starscream, Soundwave and Rodimus Unicronus were on the platform above. Hook joined the rest of his Constructicon brethren and Flatline took to his comrade, Blastwave's, side, which prompted Starscream to begin. My fellow Decepticons, he announced, spreading his arms out wide. We stand at the very precipice of our greatest victory yet. I know we have suffered many a setback while stationed on this planet. Putting it mildly, Rodimus grumbled. But that ends today. Starscream continued, not about to be deterred. For today, this world will finally know of the destruction we are capable of. Today, we bring the Autobots to their knees. Today, the Decepticon conquest of Earth shall finally begin. He raised a determined fist, prompting the other cons to let out a collective cheer throughout the room. Then, Starscream gestured to Rodimus and Soundwave. But of course, I owe a good amount of this impending victory to the efforts of Soundwave and General Unicronus, who successfully broke the spirits of the Autobots and those damned heroes through eviscerating their dear scout and compromising UA Academy. Well done to both of you. Soundwave crossed his arms over his chest, turning his head toward his cohort. HMPH, I think we all know who did most of the heavy lifting in that operation. Rodimus' glare deepened at the communications officer. Are you saying that I wasn't pulling my weight? You saw yourself how the Autobots' resolve was lost when I eviscerated their scout. He reached out and prodded Soundwave in the shoulder. All you did was give the Constructicons a place to land. And acquire a good portion of UA's databanks. Soundwave reminded, batting Rodimus' hand away before bringing up a holoscreen on his arm, showing off several images of young humans. Student IDs and personal files, instructor profiles, lesson plans, you name it, I have it. He deactivated the screen and let out a groan. MMPH, if the power hadn't been cut, I could have gotten more. Before Rodimus could make a counterpoint, Starscream placed himself between the two and firmly pushed them away from one another. Gentlebots, please, there is no need for such squabbling. We are on the cusp of victory, after all. Screamer. Once this city falls and Prime surrenders himself to us, there will be no need for such trivial arguments. Screamer. Lifting his head up high, Starscream thrust his hand into the air and declared, "Why, I can already hear Megatron singing our praises when we—" "Oye, Screamer," Nitra belted out, finally at her wit's end with Starscream's postulating. The Seeker commander promptly spun on his heel and shouted back, "What? Nitra, I swear to Primus, you had better have a good excuse for interrupting me." With a tight-lipped pout, Nitra lifting her hand up, displaying her own holoscreen that depicted a map of Mission City. And, out toward the western half, was a small, red dot. "I just picked up a ground bridge signal." It was there and gone in the span of a second. All three commanding Decepticons collectively exclaimed, "What?" as Starscream practically put his optic into the screen. The Autobots are already here. I would have thought they'd take their time mobilizing." "No Autobots, Screamer." Nitra shook her head. "Haven't detected any signals." "Then what could have come through that ground bridge?" Starscream snapped, shoving his head through the screen to give Nitra a start. He stepped forth and pointed a finger at her. "I swear, you are probably the most useless hacker the Decepticons have ever had the displeasure of having if you cannot even so much as identify a simple anomaly like this." Nitra was nearly at a loss for words, though she was about to retaliate anyway, until Soundwave spoke up. "Enough. There is no reason to panic over this." His gaze briefly drifted toward Nitra. "While yes, the resident hacker could stand to improve her observational skills, I believe what we're dealing with here is simple to deduce." He looked back to Starscream, ignoring the deadly glare that Nitra was giving him. "Given the fact that the ground bridge signal only appeared briefly, as well as there being no Autobot signal, I suspect that they must have sent a drone through." At that point, Swift came up through the crowd, placing a hand on her hip. "PSH, to do what?" "To see what they're in for when they get here." "Precisely," Soundwave affirmed, much to her surprise. "The Autobots are thinking tactically. Measuring up our forces along with the villains who are currently attacking the city. What's more, they could also be scanning the area to see just how much energon is beneath the city." All of a sudden, Blastwave smashed his fist into his open palm. "Then we must find and crush Tiny Drone. How do we find it?" "We don't." Reaching up to his shoulder, Soundwave pressed down on his deployment button, opening his chest drawer. "He does." Laserbeak, eject. With a shrill cry, the Condor Minicon cassette launched out and transformed, flying around the entire bridge before returning to his master. Holding up his arm for Laserbeak to perch on, Soundwave remotely fed the coordinates into his trusted partner's databanks. "Go to this location and find that drone. Operation: Search and Destroy." Scree, scree. Flapping his wings, Laserbeak took off, a window opening for him to fly straight through and down into the city below. "Hey, gotta appreciate how handy it is having that feathered fiend around," Barricade commented. Lugnut all but heaped praise on the Minicon as well. "Indeed, Laserbeak may be small, but he is one of the great and glorious Megatron's most integral assets." He waved a hand toward Soundwave in respect. "As, of course, are you, Soundwave." Just then, a loud cackle broke through the darkened bridge, prompting everyone to whip their heads toward Blizzwing. "Ahahaha. Yes, yes." The crazy-faced triple changer clapped his hands. "Now, if we're done bootlicking Z Bird und Z Stereo, I suggest we get Z's party started. *WHRRTSZZCHTSZZCHCHKT*, right now." He bellowed, changing to his angry face. "I'm tired of just standing around doing nothing. *WHRRTSZZCHTSZZCHCHKT*. Finally, he seemed to settle into his calm face. "Although, I suppose Z hour is not yet up, is it?" "No, it is not." Slipstream deadpanned, rubbing her fingers on her temples. "But once it is, this city will have no choice but to fall to our might." Everyone craned their heads toward Skybite after his recital, the leading Predacon raising his hand with theatric flair. Hem. He grinned to the others hopefully. "How was that? Very apropos, wouldn't you say?" Behind him, his cronies all clapped for his performance. "Oh ho, what a poem, boss." Gas Skunk commended. "Yeah, knocked it out of the park." Slapper echoed. "Like always. You're underappreciated in your time." Dark Scream cheered. "Such amazing prose." Starscream couldn't help but roll his optics, while Skybite happily bowed to the crowd of cons. "Ha, And I thought Lugnut was the biggest bootlicker here. He shook his head and cleared his throat. Ahem, at any rate, the hour is almost up. He pressed a button on the main console, revealing that only 30 minutes remained. So I would suggest that you all be prepared. This city, and every single useless human being inhabiting it, will soon bear witness to our instruments of destruction. Mackenzie Ito tapped her fingers anxiously on the armrest of her seat, impatiently waiting until their jump jet helicopter came to a full landing. The moment their base had received a call from Outpost Omega-1, they knew it had to be serious. And after they had heard the details, they wasted no time in saddling up and setting out to meet with the Autobots and their allies. The pink-haired one, Hatsume, had described the situation as incredibly grim. Bumblebee was at death's door, UA had been invaded by the Decepticons, and most important to them, Kyoko was blaming herself for it all. The young Joe known as Quick Kick couldn't let that slide. She and Kyoko had grown close over the latter's internship, and she wasn't about to let her beat herself up like that. Don't worry, Kyoko. I'm almost there. Once the vehicle came to a full stop, Mackenzie immediately undid her seatbelt and rushed for the rear hatch, only for Tiger Claw to suddenly put his arm out and stop her in her tracks. Seriously. Slow down, the Tiger Man asserted, standing up from his own seat. Yeah, Kenzie, you need to follow proper landing protocol, Kamakura added, placing a hand on her shoulder. I get that you're worried about Jiro, but that's no reason to go rushing off an aircraft. She's not going anywhere. Much to her aggravation, Kenzie knew that her senior was right. I guess, she sighed. She then felt another hand on her other shoulder, prompting her to turn around and see Jinx standing behind her. You care a lot about Kyoko, don't you, Mackenzie? Well, yeah. Shrugging her mentors off, Kenzie swiveled around to face Jinx fully. I mean, why wouldn't I? She's practically my Kahai. Then you should be a strong senpai for her. Jinx continued with a soft smile. Keeping a level head in a stressful situation is something you can pass on to her, for example. Kenzie blinked, realizing that the older woman had a good point. That actually makes sense. She took a deep breath, settling herself down. Okay, I'll try to stay calm, for her. Good to hear. Approaching from the cockpit came Budo and Snake Eyes, the former giving the group a nod. So with that, let's step off, shall we? I'm sure they'll be eager to see us. On that note, the Joes filed over to the hatch as it opened for them, waiting for it to hit the ground before they walked off. On the way down, however, Snake Eyes paused and raised his head, only to then send a wave out toward the base. Kenzie's gaze followed her master's and, in an instant, she saw exactly who he was saluting to. Standing right in the base's entrance was Kyoko. And she was absolutely ragged. Well, that didn't take very long. The martial artist raised her arm, waving to her as well. Hey, Kyoko. The Joes watched as the earphone jack user broke into a full sprint, while more Autobots and young heroes appeared in the doorway. But by then, Kyoko had already made it to them, and practically jumped straight into Kenzie's arms while bawling her eyes out. Whoa. Kenzie stumbled back a little, but managed to plant her feet to keep herself up. Kyoko. Hick, I can't freaking believe it. The punk rocker cried. You came. You guys actually came. Of course, we did. Kenzie assured, reciprocating the embrace gently. Once we heard what happened, how could we not? She pulled back a bit, meeting her junior's eyes with a sympathetic gaze. I think I know the answer to this already, but, are you okay, Kyoko? Not especially. Kyoko let out a shaky breath, wiping the tears from her cheeks. Even so, she wore a smile through it all. But I'm so glad you guys are here. Jinx moved in on the moment, reaching around to take Kyoko by the shoulders. We wouldn't miss out on this for the world, Kyo-chan. Your well-being is important to all of us, after all. The UA student craned her head around, seeing Kamakura, Tiger Claw and Budo all give assuring nods. And then finally, she found Snake Eyes once again. She gently brought herself out of Kenzie's arms, shuffling over to meet him head-on, and then gave him a full bow, placing her fist against her open palm. Master. Snake Eyes bowed back to her in respect, and then once they rose back up, he went over and put an arm across her shoulders, patting her on the head in reassurance. Thank you. I'm guessing May filled you in on everything, then. Yes, young Hatsume was thorough on the details. Tiger Claw answered. Kamakura lowered his head to her. It sounded so awful, and while I understand why you blame yourself for it, you really shouldn't. He's right, Kenzie reinforced. From the sounds of it, this con spy seems super crafty. Yeah, he is. Kyoka pursed her lips. He's also a giant asshole. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that too. Nudging her shoulder, Kenzie sent Kyoka a wink. But we're gonna show him exactly what assholes deserve, am I right? With a reciprocal nudge, Kyoka gave a little laugh and agreed. Huh, yeah, those Decepti creeps aren't gonna get away with this. The sound of heavy footsteps approaching brought the humans' attention up to the small group of Autobots and humans strolling up, with Jazz leading the way. Yo, Joes. The lieutenant greeted, kneeling down and bringing a fist down toward Snake Eyes. What up, Snake? Lookin' fly as always. Snake Eyes gladly bumped Jazz's fist, the Autobot following up by moving it over to the other Joes. Glad y'all could show up. Hey, we wouldn't miss this for the world. Kamakura said, reciprocating the gesture with his teammates. If the cons want a fight in broad daylight, we'll give 'em one. As Class 1A joined in, Tenya and Ochako couldn't help but be excited. Ah, so this must be the G.I. Joe team you had teamed up with toward the end of internships. The class rep commented as he gave them a bow. It's truly a pleasure to meet you all. Yeah, Kyoka has told us a lot about you guys. Ochako gave a slight bow of the head as well. Good to see you on board here. We're going to need the help. Jinx smiled and reciprocated the gesture. And we are honored to be of service. She then noticed Optimus was among the group as well, offering a polite bow to him, too. Optimus, I understand that the situation is rather dire. We were told about Bumblebee's condition. Kenzie's features became etched with worry at the reminder. Hey, yeah, is he going to be alright? There is hope for his survival. Optimus assured, placing a hand over his chest and bowing his head back to the ladies. I thank you for your concern. That said, I would recommend you take care to avoid the medical bay while Red Alert and Signal Flare do their work. We have little time to perform this process, so it is crucial that they have peace and quiet so they may concentrate. Understood. Tiger Claw vowed. We'll keep our distance. He trailed off when he took notice of Keita, Sue, Bakugo, and the other UA teachers, who were staring at them all with perplexed eyes. Ah, and I see we have more allies with us. Yes, both human. Jinx craned her head up toward Grimlock, Roadbuster, and the approaching Seaspray. And Autobot. Some rather big ones, too. Keita tilted her head toward the group. Ah, yeah, who are you guys supposed to be? They're part of a group called G.I. Joe, Keita. Shoto answered his best friend. Apparently they're a global special mission force that specializes in countering terrorist activities. Toward the back, Aizawa's eyes widened. Wait, so you people are real? He trudged forward with narrowed eyes, inspecting the individual members keenly. I've heard rumors about you. As a nighttime patroller, I've often heard whispers about a secret group who work in the shadows to keep the rest of the world safe from hidden threats. I've never been able to get any specifics on any individual members, though. Jinx sent him a knowing smirk. You've got your ear low to the ground, don't you, sir? Well, yes, we are that group. She gestured toward her mentor. And, unbeknownst to you, we've actually been sending internship requests to UA for well over a decade now. That made the teacher's eyes all widen collectively. You gotta be kiddin' me. Snipe uttered. Midnight raised a shaky hand, pointing at the black-clad ninja. Is he really? Hee, yep. Kyoka beamed proudly. Told ya I'd find out who Snake Eyes is. I just never said I'd give up the ghost. Smintos rubbed his chin with intrigue. Huh, well, what do you know? All this time, those internship requests were actually from someone trying to recruit UA students into some sort of shadow organization. Aizawa grimaced, activating his quirk. Between his glowing red eyes and his hair standing up on end, it was enough to put the Joes on their guard, and for Kyoka to start worrying about her place in it all. Give me one good reason I should trust you people. At first, Jinx was about to speak up again, but then, Optimus put his foot down right next to the group, bringing their attention back to him. Because I trust them, Mr. Aizawa. And trust me when I say that these people are about as good as they come. Shota wasn't exactly thrilled about what the Prime had to say, but given the circumstances, he had no choice but to accept. Fine. However, his scowl went back to Snake Eyes. I must insist that you stop sending requests to our students. Future heroes don't need to get involved in what you're doing until they're at least graduated adults. Am I clear? Listen, Mr. Aizawa, was it? I know that, huh? Jinx was cut off again when Snake Eyes raised a hand, only to then turn to the erasure user and bow his head. Snake Eyes, very well. We accept your terms. Hold on. Kyoka spoke up again, confronting her homeroom teacher. How is that fair? I survived the whole internship, learned from some of the best fighters I've ever met, and this is what they get. They're part of the reason why I've improved so much over this semester. That may be, Jiro, but you have to realize the situation you're in is unique compared to previous students. Aizawa countered. I may have sent you to see what the deal was behind Snake Eyes, but only because I knew the Autobots could get you out if it turned out to be a bad situation. If I had known from the get-go that this was related to a military installation, I would have vehemently refused. However, Kyoka folded her arms over her chest defiantly. Yeah, well then what about that whole thing about Principal Nezu knowing who Snake Eyes is but never telling you? Apparently HE was okay with letting him send internship requests to the school. If anything, that only made Aizawa's features sour more. Yes, and I'll have to ask the principal exactly what the hell he was thinking with that, too. But that's a discussion for later. He spared a glance back towards Snake Eyes. I don't know how you and Nezu know one another, but maybe bringing you into that conversation could shed some light on that. Snake Eyes gave a simple nod of agreement, before then moving over to place a hand on Kyoka's shoulder. Master, seeing his resolute stance, Kyoka ultimately let out a relenting sigh. Alright, fine. I'll stop. Her gaze hardened to her teacher. But this not over. Indeed, but it is a discussion that we can have at another time. Optimus asserted. Right now, we must focus on recruiting more allies so we may have a fighting chance against the Decepticon forces. Come, he ushered the crowd to follow him back inside, leading them to the main control terminal where Hatsume was already speedily working. May, how goes things so far? Going good, Optimus. May gave a brief thumbs up before her hands went back to typing furiously on the keyboard she had connected to the large computer so she could use it. I've contacted a majority of Japan's top heroes with an SOS. Some of them are coming, but others are a bit busy dealing with domestic threats. That is understandable, Optimus assured. I don't expect every hero in the country to drop what they're doing to come help us. So long as we have trusted allies by our side, I am grateful to whoever answers. May sent him a small smirk. Then you're probably gonna be really happy with who we get. Her eyes then shifted toward Izuku. Same goes for you, Muscles. It ain't just the top heroes who are coming, after all. The Greenette raised a confused brow. Hatsume, what are you talking about? You'll see. May winked before going back to the terminal. But on another note, I've sent the Sky Spy out to Mission City to get a lay of the land and see what we're dealing with. Wait, May, you opened a GROUNDBRIDGE in Mission City. Grimlock exclaimed. Yeah, May's eyes widened upon realizing what that meant. I see what you mean. The teens all facepalmed exasperatedly. Hatsume, they could very well find your Sky Spy if you aren't careful. Tenya said. From the back, Bakugo was the next to speak out. Or fucking worse. Who's to say they can't trace this ground bridge or whatever back to where we are now? That is, thankfully, impossible. May assured, narrowing her eyes down to the explosive blonde in the process. The base is hidden by several signal dampeners that ensure that we don't get discovered by the cons. But hey, you're new, so I'll let that little bit of ignorance slide. Katsuki's jaw fell open at the insult, his peers chortling in amusement. He was about to let his anger boil over again, but then he remembered the conditions of his stay, and he swallowed whatever was about to spew from his mouth. Gee, great. That's great. He saw Ajiro giving him 2 thumbs up next to him, earning a small eye roll. May, however, was back to work typing furiously into her keyboard, concentrating on the camera footage being transmitted from the Sky Spy. At any rate, this should be real quick anyway. If they manage to find my baby, it'll already be too late to stop it. With the press of a button, May input a command into the Sky Spy, which made it shoot off 6, much smaller orb-shaped drones from under its armor plating. Each of those smaller drones each had a small propeller on top of them, along with a center lens which began feeding even more footage at different angles as they zoomed along. "Whoa," Ochako said, taken aback. "I didn't know the Sky Spy could do that." "It can now," May winked. "I'm not just sitting around on my hands all day, after all. I always give my babies some upgrades here and there, and this one is perfect for what we need." Once more, her hands flew across the keyboard, commanding the drones to go in several different directions. "Now, let's see what kind of baddies we're dealing with." As it would happen, the villains were a combination of familiar faces and new, very disturbing ones as well. Of course, there was Nanosec, Professor Princess, Angry Archer and Colossus Rhodes, all 4 of them causing problems for the local law enforcement. Meanwhile, Mission City's heroes were being absolutely trounced by a slew of large, rather animal-like villains. A bipedal bat, lizard, fish and rhino were the best way to describe most of them, while their leader appeared to be an octopus man with armored reptile feet. But the most disturbing of them all was a man who seemed to have a skeletal bull-like head with long horns, his saggy, wrinkly flesh making him resemble some sort of walking corpse. And they weren't afraid to let their animalistic sides show, bellowing and roaring at the opposing do-gooders to strike terror into their souls. "Holy shit," Tetsu uttered. "Are they, even human?" Setsuna questioned. Abara seemed the most afraid of these new villains, her eyes widening at the sight of the skull-headed one. "No, they must be demons. Either that or they've been mutated beyond all recognition of being human," Ribbit Su concluded. "But, why animal mutants?" Itsuka wondered. Denki could only shrug his shoulders. "Search me. Maybe they just wanted a gimmick." However, he then snapped his fingers as an idea struck him. "Oh, no, wait. Mutant, animals, they're mutanimals." He wore a full smile as he looked to his fellow students, all of whom were unimpressed with his wordplay. "Well, I thought it was clever." Nobody asked, jamming yay. Kyoka deadpanned. "Also, I'm pretty sure that's already taken. It also ain't the main point." Roadbuster spoke, taking to the front of the crowd to join May near the terminal. "Crazy eyes, gimme a map of the city layout, and I'm gonna need the locations of those drones, too." May was taken off guard by the request, but she followed through, pulling up a map first. Then, within seconds, several red dots appeared on it, and to everyone's surprise, they were in a set pattern. Smintos was the first to point it out. "It's a hexagon." Roadbuster nodded down to him. "Yep, I've seen this tactic before. They're trying to stretch the city's forces thin by spreading them out in all directions." He nudged his chin toward Bulkhead and Springer. "Remember the insurrection from Inkarskin?" "Oh, yeah, the prisoners pulled the same tactic when they all tried to escape," Bulkhead affirmed. "Only in this case, it's at a much bigger scale." "So, what does that mean?" Mina inquired, perched on Bulkhead's shoulder. "It means that the cons are hoppin' to make sure the city's at its weakest when they finally unleash hell," Springer elaborated, crossing his arms over his chest. "They're gonna make sure that their center of the city stays unprotected so they can blow it all to smithereens." Snipe raised his fingers, understanding the tactic. "All if it gone, snap, just like that. And you can bet that they're gonna use the Constructicons to do it." Jazz craned his head up toward his commanding officer. "What's the play here, Prime? We gonna portal in right where they're targeting." Raising his arm, Optimus moved his finger across the map to every single point. "Not just there, Jazz, but to every location that they're targeting." His hand drifted toward the center. "Our main Autobot squadron will deploy to the center of the city, yes, but then, we will deploy separate groups to all of these other locations where the villains are causing havoc." He turned back toward the crowd and explained further. "One Autobot will accompany each of these groups, just in case the Decepticons deploy their forces further out in response." The Autobots nodded in agreement. Good strategy." Grimlock concurred. "Though that begs another question, who gets assigned to these smaller groups and who gets put in the main squad?" "That is exactly what you're going to help me figure out, Grimlock," Optimus replied. "We're going to need our best bots to counter Devastator, along with every single advantage we can acquire." On that note, his optics shifted back down toward May. "I require a ground bridge to Sector 7's headquarters, if you would please, May." "On it, Prime." May saluted, inputting another command into her keyboard. Within seconds, the ground bridge activated and Prime stepped up on the platform. I'm also gonna do a scan across the city to see just how much energon we're dealing with. Good. That information will surely be convenient to have. Optimus gave one final nod to the team before he departed. I shall return momentarily. Grimlock, Roadbuster, Jetfire, if you would accompany me, we will discuss our strategy. The three Autobots started to follow him, but just then. Pow! Without any warning whatsoever, Jetfire's damaged thrusters suddenly backfired, unleashed a cloud of burning, black smoke into the base. Everybody flinched and covered their mouths as the dark fog wafted through the building, all while Jetfire himself let out a sharp, "Gah!" and fell to his knees, wincing in pain. "Ah, that's smarts." Jetfire. Izuku cried out. "Hey, are you okay?" Reaching to his thrusters, Jetfire managed to remove them from his back, setting them on the ground gently so that they wouldn't go off again. As it turned out, they had been damaged pretty bad, and now his back was singed and injured as well thanks to the blowback. Devastator really did a number on these, worse than I thought. "Can you still fly?" Ajiro asked. "I probably can, but not effectively." Jetfire stood up, stomping his foot in frustration. And the dock bots preoccupied with so. "I'll fix him up for you, Jetfire." May guaranteed with a wink, bringing the aerial commander's sights over to her. "And I'll patch you up while I'm doing it." Jetfire placed a hand to his helm with a small chortle. "Hey, you seem pretty confident in that, May. Alright, I'll let ya see what you can do for me." "I appreciate it." His attention went back to Prime and the others on the platform. "You guys go on ahead. Get what you need and come back, ASAP." Optimus waved back to his old friend. Of course. We will be back soon." With that, the three bots departed, leaving everyone else's attention to shift back toward the screen. However, when they did, they noticed something was off. "Hey, was one of those cameras all staticky before?" Mina asked. May whipped her head up, seeing that indeed, one of the drone cameras had gone offline. "That shouldn't be, ****. Right then and there, another drone camera had gone offline, the sound of a small blast accompanying it. "Oh crap. They're onto us," Aizawa exclaimed. "Hatsume, pull the Sky Spy out." But the young inventor refused. "Not yet. I still need to get the subterranean scans." Once more, her fingers began furiously typing across her keyboard, going so fast they were almost like a blur. Upon her command, the separate drones began to fly across the city, performing a wide scan from above. Then, on the monitor, a progress bar appeared, showing how much of the scan was left. Come on, babies." Unfortunately, the scan would often halt as more drones were progressively destroyed. 50%, KCH 65%, KCH 73%, KCH 89%, KCH finally. The only remaining drone was the Sky Spy itself, and everyone watched with bated breath as the progress bar inched ever closer to 100%. And, by the time the bar had reached 99%. Ding! The group saw the bar briefly flash green, only for it to instantly disappear once a mechanical bird-like transformer soared into the Sky Spy, letting out a shrill screech, "Kya!" KCH'd. And just like that, the feed was cut off completely, leaving everyone to shout in shock at the sudden impact. What the hell was that? Tetsu shouted. Was that a mini-con? Itsuka wondered. Not just any mini-con, everyone's focus was brought over to Roller as he entered the room, with Longarm and the Street Action mini-con team in tow. That was one of Soundwave's cronies. The flying metal turkey known as Laserbeak. Kyoka's voice dripped venomously, recalling the Condor Con all too well. "Yeah, we've met." Longarm let out a sigh, placing a hand to his chest. "We're lucky that the Sky Spy's signal can't be traced back to our base. Otherwise, Soundwave would use it to find us in a sparkbeat." He walked over to May, crouching next to her hopefully. "I'm sorry about your baby, May, but did it at least complete the scan?" With a shaky breath, May kept herself composed in the face of her invention's destruction, taking heart in the fact that their endeavors hadn't been for nothing. "It did, so, let's take a look at what we're dealing with, shall we?" With yet another typed-in command, May brought up the city map once again, only for it to shift to a three-dimensional plane. The cityscape rose up, allowing a complete look at the hidden store of energon. It was several yards below the city, maybe almost a mile beneath, and it seemed to be within a huge chamber of sorts. Whoa, that's a scrap ton of energon right there, Sideswipe remarked. How in the pit have humans not discovered caches this big? Sunstreaker added, thrusting his hand toward the screen. Especially over centuries of it being here. Midnight could only offer a shrug at that. What can we say? We're not real big fans of looking up or down. However, upon second glance, the somnambulist user noticed something else in the chamber, something that oddly stood out. Wait, what's that supposed to be? She indicated what she was talking about with a pointed finger, to which other began to notice the weirdly angular shapes that protruded from the very edge of the chamber. Whatever it was rather large, and while its middle section was large and bulky, it had several struts that seemed to protrude out its rear, while parts near the front appeared to slope downward. I have no idea, May admitted. It doesn't look like any natural rock formation, I can say that for sure. Not a moment later, the sound of approaching footsteps made the group face the nearby hallway, where an exasperated Red Alert was seen coming out. What can you say for sure, May? He had asked. Red. May did a double take, giving her partner an admonishing gaze. What are you doing out here? You and Signal Flare are supposed to be taking care of Bumblebee. Bumblebee is currently stable, Red Alert assured, reaching down to place a hand on her shoulder. I only came out here to get some additional tools, he trailed off, however, when he caught sight of the map. What is this? Izuku was the one to answer his query. It's a map of the energon cache that Hatsume just scanned. We're trying to prepare for the battle with this. Kyoka nudged her chin to the 3D map. But we've also picked up something else in the chamber, too. Any idea what it could be? Rising to his feet so he was eye level with the massive monitor, Red Alert analyzed the odd shaping of the mysterious structure within the chamber. It wasn't long until a thought occurred to him, glancing back down to his partner. May, can you separate this object and rotate it by itself? May gave him a single nod and began typing in the command, making the map zoom in on the object. It became enveloped in a grid pattern and was isolated from the rest of the map, to which it began spinning so that it was facing up. And that's when things started to become much clearer to the group, leaving many of them wide-eyed and slack-jawed at the realization. Both human and Autobot alike were stunned to see that it was, in actuality, a massive spacecraft. The main body of the ship was squared off and angular, but the rocket thrusters on either side were shaped like half-cones, each with 3 stabilizing struts at their rear. Toward the back was an even larger thruster, which was equipped with had 4 of these stabilizers. Finally, the front was made of a rounded piece with large panels sticking out the front, also resembling parts of a cone. All in all, it was a sight that left everyone flabbergasted. Number Slagan Way, Springer remarked. It's some sort of ship. Momo uttered. Not just any ship, Bulkheed said with a big grin. Haha, that right, there's an Autobot spaceship. Kata smacked her hand against her forehead. What are the freaking odds? Shoto shook his head in disbelief. But how in the world did an Autobot ship end up under Mission City? This doesn't make any sense. Well, perhaps not at first. Red Alert raised a contentious finger. However, considering that we've been collecting Cybertronian artifacts for the past several months, it stands to reason that the team of Autobots who came here to hide them must have had some sort of vessel to get to this place. He pointed that finger back to the screen. And that must be it. Tenya placed a ponderous hand to his chin. I suppose, but didn't we find Padlock's team in Greece? If that's the case, wouldn't it stand to reason that we should have found this vessel there and not in an American city? A fair point, Tenya. Red Alert conceded. There is still a mystery afoot here, but at the moment, solving that can wait. Because right now, this presents us with a golden opportunity. Jazz all but agreed with the medic. He's right. 'Cause if we can get that ship back online, that might be the best advantage we can get. Not just to curb Stomp Devastator, but also to make sure that Khan warship gets blown out of the sky. He clenched a determined fist. So, getting underground and seeing if we can get that ship airborne is now one of our big priorities, got it? Right, leave it to me. RC saluted. I've got experience piloting big ships like that, so with any luck, we can. Crash. But right then and there, the pink Autobot was suddenly cut off when something came smashing right through the base's ceiling, making the whole group spin around in shock. Every Autobot raised their weapons at the dust cloud at the opposite end of the room, while the heroes and students were all on their guard. "Gah, who goes there?" Jetfire grunted, getting to his feet while ignoring the pain in his back. He didn't get a response, but instead, a figure rose up within the cloud of dust, one with a rather familiar silhouette. They were a rather short individual with nonetheless powerfully muscular limbs, though their stature overall could be described as lithe. They had long hair, and on top of their head was a set of long ears. Izuku's eyes widened in both anticipation and a bit of fear. Uh-oh. Sure enough, the figure swiped away the dust with a wave of her arm, revealing none other than the rabbit hero, Mirko. And she was absolutely pissed. Alright, where the hell is he? Meanwhile, at Sector 7's Japan headquarters, Optimus, Roadbuster and Grimlock strolled into the base, where they were met pretty much immediately by the Mini-Con Council and the Omnicons, both groups running up to them in concern. "Prime," Scythe hollered from below. "How are things back at base? Did Signal Flare make it in time?" "Worry not, Scythe," Optimus raised a calming hand. "He did. Bumblebee is currently being stabilized as we speak." But can he be saved?" Anti-Blaze stammered. "We don't exactly have the tech needed to treat wounds like that." "You are correct, but we do have something else that we found this morning." Optimus grinned beneath his faceplate. "And with any luck, we may be able to do more than just save Bumblebee. He could possibly undergo a complete reformatting." The small group of Autobots were taken by surprise. "An entire reformatting," Checkpoint reiterated. "That's Prime." Everything was brought to a complete halt as a certain voice hollered out from across the large room, leading everyone to see an irate Agent Fowler approaching. "What in hell's blazes is going on? I had to order an entire media blackout across the whole fraggin' state of Nevada just to get things quiet about this disaster." He stopped just before Prime's foot, aiming a stern finger in his direction. "You'd better have a good explanation for how this happened. It happened right under our noses, Agent Fowler." Prime responded grimly, keeping his head low in shame. "We were caught off guard. The Decepticons staged an entire subterfuge plan in order to keep us distracted from what was really happening." If anything, that made Fowler all the more irate. "In just what could have been so important that it distracted you from their invasion of a US city? UA has been compromised," the Autobot leader revealed, which was enough to sober Fowler's anger in an instant. Kyoko was tricked into bringing a Decepticon spy, Soundwave, onto school grounds, allowing him to access their databanks and send out a signal so that even more Decepticons could crash land into one of the school's practice fields. Fowler was left wide-eyed and baffled by the news. But how'd she get tricked into bringing a con into the school? He somehow managed to disguise himself as an abandoned boombox, Optimus revealed. "You bots can turn into boomboxes." Roadbuster raised a finger to interject. "Not all of us. Only those with a special shifter T-Cog can. Gives us the ability to mass shift like crazy to take on tons of forms." And somehow, Soundwave got his mitts on one. Grimlock folded his arms over his chest. "Still trying to figure that one out." Optimus nodded. "I can think of a few methods that he could have obtained one, but the time for speculation has long since passed." He set his sights down to their government liaison. "We are here to procure some much-needed tools for the battle ahead of us. I swear to you, Agent Fowler, we will rid Mission City of the Decepticon threat. If we do not, Bumblebee's act of selflessness will be for nothing." Fowler's eyes somehow widened even more. Is he alive, but only barely," Optimus revealed. "Thankfully, we had found a stasis pod containing a blank protoform earlier this morning. With it, we can potentially save his life. Red Alert and Signal Flare are working on just that right now." He raised a determined fist. "But right now, we require instruments of war. We need the relics we've collected so far." Well, I'd be happy to let you take him." Fowler waved his hand toward the containment zone. "So long as you don't lose him to the cons, of course." "PSH, that's the last thing we need," Roadbuster scoffed, following his commander and the others through the base. As they walked, though, he craned his head back toward the Omnicons. "So, Prime tells me you're a bunch of con defectors. That's right, sir. Kevin piped up, giving him a salute. We're just a bunch of humble mining bots who the Decepticons created to excavate Energon. We weren't built for combat. Guess that makes sense. But then, Roadbuster nudged his head toward one in particular. What about him, though? Doesn't seem like a friendly face to me. The Omnicon in question wasn't even an Omnicon at all. Rather, it was the resident turncoat Viacon, Steve. And, as always, he gave a brazen answer. HMPH, well that's 'cause I ain't one, big guy. He jerked a thumb over to his peers. While these guys got all fancy and rebranded to Autobots, I'm still not fully on board with all this. I'm just cooperating so I can stay alive here. Roadbuster, with a slight chuckle, found himself amused by the reply. Hey, that's so. He pointed to the scratched out symbol on Steve's chest. Looks like ya don't exactly agree with the cons either, though, so that's a plus. Steve gave a simple shrug. Never really appreciated the whole work under threat of death thing that the cons peddled. As of right now, I'm not on anyone's side. So I guess that rules you out of the incoming fight, then. Grimlock jumped in. Oh, you kidding? Steve scoffed. If I show myself on your side, I'll get killed on sight. As they made it to their destination, Optimus stopped first and turned back to them, looking to the Viacon first. And that is your prerogative. I will not force you, any of you, to take part in this battle if that is what you wish. It is your decision to fight, and if you are not comfortable with that, I understand. He gave a nod to the Omnicons. Just know that I appreciate that you all have been loyal to the cause thus far, and I hope for your continued cooperation in the future. All at once, the Viacon saluted and belted out. Yes sir. Followed by Steve, who gave a smaller salute. Aye, Captain. That managed to earn a small chortle from the Prime, though his attention went back to the containment area for the relics. There, he was met with the three objects they had collected so far: the Polarity Gauntlet, Alpha Trion's Quill, and the Skyboom Shield. Raising his hand, Optimus willed the golden shield into his grasp, landing in his hand with a clang. He then reached down and procured the gauntlet, knowing exactly who he would be giving it to. I only wish we were able to find more relics before this happened. Well, we'll have to make do with what we have. Grimlock shrugged. Thankfully, our forces are more than willing to give it their all, with or without powerful weapons. Yes, Optimus trailed off, however, when something clicked in his processor. Something had slipped his mind, and now, it had re-entered his train of thought. Wait, we might have something else. Roadbuster and Grimlock were left puzzled at the Prime's words, only for him to spin around toward the Omnicons. I didn't get the chance to ask him yet, but, has Signal Flare completed the project that I assigned to him? The Omnicon known as Kyle was the one to answer. Oh, yeah, he actually had just put the finishing touches on it when May contacted him. Come on, we'll show ya. As the group of bots led the way to Signal Flare's workshop, Grimlock tilted his head. Prime, what are you talking about? What project? Prime remained silent until they made it to the next doorway, which opened up into the workshop proper. A few weeks ago, back when we first came across Swindle and Skullcruncher, they had a ship full of countless weapons and other destructive armaments. His optics scanned the room until he pointed at something on the floor. And among them, was that. What's the, Roadbuster gasped and Grimlock was left speechless at what they saw. There, strewn about in the corner, was a gutted fusion cannon, partially disassembled yet still recognizable. Is that what I think it is? Indeed. According to RC, she said that Swindle kept it for insurance. Optimus stated. However, I figured that we could use its capabilities in order to serve our own purposes. So, I had Signal Flare re-engineer it into a new weapon. Roadbuster was left more confused by that, however. Why not just use it like it is? Because the fusion cannon is a symbol of oppression. Grimlock asserted. Megatron's brandished it so much that even the idea of an Autobot wielding one is a sickening thought. But, if instead an Autobot use a weapon that's basically the same thing but in a different form, then it will be lauded as a tool of overthrowing suppression. Optimus concluded, spotting said weapon just across the way on a workbench. And on that note, there it is. Sitting there was a large, black, handheld gun with double barrels shaped like rockets, and it was equally as big as the fusion cannon itself. Dave the Omnicon went over and hefted it up with 2 hands. Gah, signal flare calls it the Galaxial laser launcher. Grimlock whistled, impressed by the sight. Woo, now that's a beaut. I'm glad that you think so, Grimlock. Optimus approved. Because it's yours. The revelation made Grimlock do a double take, to which Prime extended a hand. After all, you're the only bot who can realistically wield it at that size. HMPH, much as I hate to admit it, yeah, I don't even think I could wield that thing. Roadbuster commented, nudging Grimlock's arm. It's yours, pal. The Dinobot commander reached down and took the weapon's handle, finding that it fit perfectly in his hand. A satisfying feeling overcame him as he nodded in approval. I'm honored, Prime. I'll see that it's put to good use. Excellent. Optimus returned. Now, let's get back to base. We'd best not waste any more time. I'm certain that more heroes are arriving even as we speak. I won't ask again. Where is he? The entire room trembled at the ferocity behind Mirko's question, though a certain few were left baffled by her presence. What the hell? Bakugo exclaimed. How'd Mirko get here? Keita, for the first time in her life, found herself agreeing with the explosion user. Honestly, I have no clue. This whole thing is freaking crazy. Thankfully, however, Izuku was moving his way through the crowd, and he made his way between the two of them. She's probably looking for me. Excuse me, he put on the best smile he could as he finally showed himself, waving nervously toward the rabbit hero. Mirko. Hi, how's it? Midoriya. The greenette let out a terrified scream as Mirko practically blasted toward him in a single bound, screwing his eyes shut for what would come next. But, instead of getting pummeled, he was yanked into her grasp and held aloft before being shaken at 100 miles an hour, becoming a green blur as Mirko shouted at him, do you have any idea how freaking worried I was when I got the news? Are you hurt? Where's Bumblebee? Which con do I have to go to so I can take revenge for ya? Mirko. PP please SSSTOOOOPPP. As the up-and-coming heroine bombarded him with questions, the others were left completely stunned by the move. Are we just missing something here? Midnight spoke up. So yeah, Mirko was one of Izuku's mentors over the course of the internships. Kyoka answered, watching as her best friend's complexion changed from blue to purple. And I think she might have gotten attached to him. She marched up to the duo, giving Mirko a stern expression. Yo, lady, can't ya see he can't breathe? Snapping out of her incensed state, Mirko saw Izuku's breathless condition and promptly let him go, causing him to fall to the floor with huffing breaths. Oops, sorry about that, kid. Kneeling by his side, Kyoka put a comforting hand to his shoulder. You okay, Green Bean? Yeah, I think so. The One for All user set his sights back to Mirko, full of shock and confusion. But Mirko, where did you come from? Yeah, you kinda just fell out of the sky. May pointed out, peering back at the hole in the roof. Gonna have to fix that. Mirko wore a sheepish smile as she rubbed her neck, laughing all the while. Yeah, well, I actually came here with some pals and I kinda took a leak before we landed. Sorry about your roof, but I just had to see Midoriya. She crouched down next to the greenette, locking her eyes with his seriously. Really, though, are you okay, kid? What about B? Taking a deep breath, Izuku propped himself onto his hands to sit up. I'm okay. B's been stabilized and he's got a chance at living. He glanced up toward Red Alert. You said you had to get some tools, right? Right, thank you for the reminder. Red Alert went over to the ground bridge platform and procured a large box, giving a nod toward the group before going back into the depths of the base. Wish us luck. We'll need it. Mirko stared after the medic as he left, only to then reach down and offer Izuku her hand. Taking it gladly, he allowed her to hoist himself up to his feet. Kid, I know I've said this before, but you're one tough cookie. She nudged him in the shoulder with her fist. And don't worry, from what I've seen, B's plenty tough, too. He'll make it through, I know it. Hee, thanks for the words of encouragement. Izuku laughed hollowly, putting on a weak smile. I just wish this never happened in the first place. We all do, Izuku. Kyoka affirmed, touching a hand to his arm. But we gotta have faith. B will pull through. He's got to, she offered a small smile of her own. For all of us. Izuku's grin became just a tad more sincere as he reached over and placed his own hand over hers, but the mood was promptly ruined at the sound of a bellowing, angry voice coming from outside. RUUUMI. Mirko promptly straightened up at the sound of her civilian name being roared out in rage, her sights darting toward the front door. Oh boy, Coco's pissed. Coco. Keita questioned. Who's that? Let's find out. Jazz said, waltzing over to the door to welcome their new guests. Hang back, I'll get him. Within moments he came back, and with him came 5 other heroes. Throughout the room, many faces brightened up at the sight of Crust, Edgeshot, Kamui Woods, Mount, Lady and Yukio coming into the base, though the latter seemed to be relatively furious as her eyes were narrowed right at the rabbit hero. Rumi Usajiyama. Yukio snapped, gritting her sharpened teeth. What did I say about jumping off my back before landing? Mirko, with a full smile, simply placed her hands behind her head and leisurely leaned back. Ah, come on, Coco. You're getting on my case about this. How many times have I done even more reckless stunts? However, Yukio pointed a stern finger at her fellow hero. First off, don't you, Coco, me. And secondly, that's not the point. You could have seriously hurt one of these kids. You're lucky you didn't land on any of them. Hey, I made sure to yell, incoming. Before I crashed. And we didn't hear it. Denki deadpanned, earning him a swift glare from the rabbit hero. I mean, we did. We totally heard it, Miss Mirko. But before Yukio could start harping on Mirko any further, a stunned Keita rushed over to get her attention. Miss Yukio. The blonde woman's demeanor immediately softened at the familiar voice, turning and gasping at the sight of her intern. Keita. What in the world, were you caught up in the attack at UA? Keita shook her head. No, I've known about the Autobots for a little bit now, and I was told that you knew about them not long after. She offered a small smile and a shrug. Small world, huh? More like the worst best kept secret imaginable. Yukio went over and pat her protege's shoulder. But it's good to see you, Keita. I'm glad to see that you've been acclimating to the Autobots well. Her stern expression came back as she spun back toward Mirko, who was trying to sneak off. But don't think I haven't forgotten about you, Rumi. Ah hey, Mirko raised her hands in surrender, lopping her ears down in the process. Guess I'm caught. Off to the side, Kyoka shuffled over to Izuku and whispered, is it just me, or do those two seem really familiar with each other? Izuku nodded in agreement. Yeah, think they're friends. Probably. Kyoka rubbed her chin. This requires further investigation. As that was going on, though, the other students had found their own respective mentors, joyously reuniting with them all. Crust, Eijiro, Mina and Tetsu sounded off, the trio lining up in front of the number 5 hero and bowing to him. It's good to see you again, sir. They said in unison. Haha, it's good to see you kids as well. Crust gave a thumbs up. I assume you've all been keeping up with your training. Yes, sir. Eijiro rolled his shoulder, pumping his fist up and down. I feel my quirk getting better each and every day thanks to your teachings. Tetsu coated himself in metal and smashed his fists together, causing sparks to fly. Me, too. I feel like I could tear through a mountain at this point. Mina waved at Crust with just as much enthusiasm. So can I. Only in my case, I'm melting through it. Upon hearing his former intern's resolve, Crust sniffled a little before breaking out into full-on waterworks. SNF, you kids, gahahaha. He covered his eyes as he wept buckets of water into the floor, the teens trying to calm him down. I'm so glad to see my teachings have stuck so well. Your determination is overwhelming. Ah. Master, I'm very glad that you could come. Momo bowed to Edgeshot respectfully. The ninja hero reciprocated the gesture in kind. I would not miss this for the world. Young Yaoyorozu, he then noticed both Snake Eyes and Jinx approaching from behind his student, making his lips curl up behind his mask. Ah, and I see that I'm not the only former member of the Arashikage to respond to the call. It's good to see you, too, Senpai. Jinx bowed her head while Snake Eyes came up, sharing a fist bump with Edgeshot. Are you ready for this? Truthfully, I don't know if any of us are, Edgeshot admitted. But, those Decepticons not only terrorized UA, but also left a good soldier at death's door. At this point, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the battle comes. Very wise words, sir. Abara commented as she joined them, moving over to her own mentor. Mr. Woods, it's good to see you again. Kamui chortled and placed a fist over his chest. Same goes to you, Miss Shiozaki. I hope to see those lessons I taught you get put to the test. Of course, sir. I will do my very best. Abara trailed off, however, when she noticed Mt. Lady, glaring at midnight. The two weren't confronting each other directly, but their hostility could be felt throughout the entire room, and it didn't take everyone else long to notice that. Will they be okay working together? Even Kamui didn't seem too confident about that. Well, for the sake of the planet, I certainly hope so. He approached his partner, standing directly in the path of her gaze. I know that this is a hard ask, but please, could you keep things civil between yourself and Midnight? The battle ahead of us is crucial, after all. The blonde heroine pouted at him, folding her arms over her chest as she spun away from him. HMPH, fine, but I'd better not catch you doing any combo moves with her or anything. I doubt you will have to worry about that. Bleep blip blip. Optimus to base. The sudden sound of the Prime's voice swiftly brought everyone's focus to the main computer. We are ready. May, bridge us back, please. Hurrying over, May followed through with his request. On it, Prime. We're all here waiting for you. Once more, the ground bridge portal activated, allowing the three Autobots to return. They remained on the platform, however, using it as a stage to preside over the rest of the team. So, how'd it go? May asked. It went well. Optimus confirmed. We have everything we need. He scanned his optics across the crowd, noting the presence of 6 more heroes. And I can see that our forces have been further bolstered. Heroes, thank you for coming in this dire time of need. Mirko smacked her fist into her hand eagerly. PSH, like hell we'd miss out on this. We'll kick those Decepti creeps cans all the way back to space after what they did. Her proclamation made Roadbuster laugh heartily and he pointed over to her. Haha, I like your style there, lady. Who are you? Cracking her neck, the rabbit hero identified herself. Name's Mirko, and I can see that the Autobots have only gotten bigger since I was last here. It didn't take long for her to take note of all the weapons Roadbuster was carrying on his person. Hope those guns and stuff ain't just for show, cuz we're gonna need 'em. Oh, you'll see what they can do, the munitions expert assured. He then turned toward his leader. So, we ready to do this or what? Not yet, Optimus shook his head. There is still one person we're missing. Ahahaha. But, right as he said that, the sound of a familiar guffaw reverberated across the room, causing the entire crowd of heroes and students to spin around, most of them with bright, hopeful smiles. There, standing in the hallway, was All Might, flanked by Marissa and the Yaoyorozus with his fists planted firmly on his hips. He stood tall with his chest puffed out, sending out his signature smile to the entire room. You rang, my friend. Izuku was the first one over there. All Might, you're healed. The number 1 hero greeted his protege with a friendly pat on the shoulder. That's right, young Midoriya. I feel right as rain now. He then directed his gaze out toward the others. My students, and my fellow heroes, I hope that all of you are ready to kick some serious con behinds, because for what they've done, they surely deserve the worst we have to offer. He received a cacophonous cheer from almost everyone, which was all he needed to hear. Good. Then let's show them who we are, and why we are here. Once more, the crowd shouted with vigor at his words, however, once it died down, a meek voice was heard coming forward. Actually, Ribbit, their attention was drawn to Suyu as she shuffled up to the front, her features apologetic as she kept her head low. All Might, Optimus, I don't know if I can go. With worried expressions, the Autobots and Suyu's fellow students looked to her with confusion. What do you mean? Ochako moved next to her friend, reaching down to grab her hand. Are you feeling sick or something? Not exactly, Sue squeezed Ochako's hand in reassurance. I'm afraid. I've never really fought against a Decepticon before, so I don't know how good I'd do. And since Seaspray can't come, I'd just be a ball of nerves. Wait, Seaspray can't come? Eijiro echoed. Well, yeah, the voice of the huge bot in question piped up, leading everyone to see his head peeking in through the window. I can't exactly get in the base, let alone go through the ground bridge. I'm kinda stuck here. Optimus nodded over to him. Which is fine, Seaspray. I would feel better with you remaining here to oversee the base at any rate. He went back to Sue, crouching down closer to her. And Suyu, if you do not feel comfortable partaking in this battle, that is fine as well. I would rather you stay here than put you in an environment you aren't used to. Suyu sighed in relief. Thank you, Optimus. But I promise, I'll be cheering you guys on from here. As will we. Yua spoke as she and her husband approached their daughter, taking Momo by her hands. As you know, dear, I'm no fighter, so taking part in this is far out of my league. But I want you to be safe out there until your father gets there. Please. Once your uncle and the others arrive, we'll be on the scene as fast as possible. Taro placed one hand over his chest, the other settling in his daughter's other hand. I never would have imagined I'd be seeing my little girl off to a major battle so soon, but I have faith that you'll do an incredible job. With a bright smile, Momo pulled her parents into a loving embrace. Thank you, mother, father. I promise, we'll all come back from this. Windblade knelt down with the family, vowing the same thing. And I'll make certain of that. Count on it. Once the Yaoyorozus parted with their daughter, the city speaker went back toward her leader. But Prime, there's something else you should know before we set out. Optimus urged her to continue. Yes, Windblade, what is it? Right after you left, May performed a subterranean scan of Mission City to see just how much energon there was, but that wasn't the only thing she found. Pointing over to the monitor, she indicated the 3D image of the Autobot spaceship that they had isolated, making Optimus' optics widen. Seem familiar to you? Indeed, it does, Windblade, the Prime confirmed. Is there any way to reach this craft? Workin' on it as we speak. May saluted. I'll let you know if I find an easy way down into the chamber. And if there isn't, well, good luck digging through all that concrete. Optimus nodded in understanding. Very well. Thank you, May. Do your best. With a deep intake, Prime stepped back to the center of the ground bridge platform, addressing the crowd one final time. Autobots, we've made our new home on Earth for several months now, and in that time, we've protected it from the threat of the Decepticons at every turn. However, on this day, humanity is now facing the worst of this threat so far, and they have already left one of our own in critical condition. If it weren't for Bumblebee, none of us would be here today. So today, we fight. The Autobots all gave a unified cheer. Yeah. We fight for freedom. Yeah. This time, humans and Autobots were united in their spirit, though Bakugo seemed somewhat taken aback by all of this. Follow me, and together, we will avenge our friend and drive the Decepticons back to where they came from. Optimus held a fist aloft, only to then direct a finger through the opening ground bridge portal. Today, we take the fight to them. Once more, the entire crowd belted out an uproarious cheer, only for Optimus to raise a hand. When we arrive, we will separate into groups, and from there, we will fan out across the city to engage Decepticon and villain alike. Steel yourselves, everyone, this will be our finest hour. He raised his hand and gave the command, Autobots, heroes, roll out. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. All at once, the Autobot all transformed and began rolling their way through the portal, with the humans following on foot. However, Izuku paused, seeing Katsuki simply staring after Prime as he went through. You okay? The blonde grumbled and rubbed his hair. Grr, yeah, it's just, I dunno, I feel weird. Like, hearing all of that gave me some sorta strong sense of encouragement or something. Overhearing that, Kyoka sent a smirk toward the explosion user. It's called being inspired. Feels good following a great leader, doesn't it? PSH, W whatever, Bakugo's tone belied his indifferent expression. It's gotta be some sort of brainwashing, right? Nope. Izuku denied as they walked into the ground bridge portal. That's just Optimus Prime. With that, the three of them stepped through, with Izuku and Kyoka giving their friends one final wave. But just as he was about to leave, Izuku was suddenly stopped when May pulled him back. Wait, Muscles. Before ya go. Without any fanfare, she shoved a big, metal suitcase into his arms with a confident smirk. Here. My latest baby. May it serve you well. At first, Izuku wasn't sure what to make of it, and he was about to open it up right then and there. Wow, thanks, Hatsume, don't open it until after you get out there. May promptly spun him around and went to shove him into the portal. Instructions are inside, just follow him and you'll be alright. Hold on, Hatsume, Chum. But it was too late. Once Izuku stepped through, the ground bridge was sealed, leaving Mei, Tsuyu, Marissa, the Yaoyorozus and Jetfire to themselves, with sea spray still peeking in through the window. Good luck, everyone. Mei sighed before clapping her hands together. Alright, Jetfire, let's work on getting you patched up so you can join him. Thanks again, Mei. Jetfire nodded, sitting on the floor so she could access his injuries. Here's hoppin', everything goes alright. However, little did the Autobots and heroes know that they were yet again being watched. Because atop the base's roof stood a certain scarf-wearing individual, wearing knowing grin as he peered through the hole that Mirko had made. Seems the big finale has finally arrived, Ace remarked to himself, reaching into his pocket to pull out his bulky cell phone to make a call. Yes, it's me. Gather everyone and meet at the rendezvous point. It's almost time. Bong. In a flash of blue light accompanied by a loud chime, Ace disappeared, leading Seaspray to suddenly jolt up in surprise. What was? The seafaring Autobot rubbed his helm, unsure of what the disturbance could have been. I must be hearing things. Chapter 99, Killing Machines. The hour is nearly up. From high atop the desolation, Starscream presided over not just the entirety of Mission City, but the venerable armada of Viacons lined up across the top deck. They all waited patiently as the clock ticked down, with only 5 minutes remaining until their time finally came. And down below, things were going exactly as the Seeker commander hoped they'd be, the city in utter chaos, with humans scrambling all over town in a vain attempt to get away. Those lucky enough to actually escape are the fortunate ones. Starscream mused to himself. They will be able to tell the tale of how their planet's destruction begins, not that it'll matter, anyway. So, we just gonna dive down and start wrecking stuff? Thundercracker inquired dully, he and Skywarp flanking his brother. No. The way we proceed must be calculated and precise. Starscream asserted. After all, one wrong move with the Energon below, and this entire city could go sky high. Our goal must be to level the city, after all. Skywarp folded his arms over his chest. And if the Autobots get in the way, we can just scorch them, right? Correct. Trailing off, Starscream noticed that his youngest brother was keeping his head low, a contemplative expression upon his features, and it irritated him. Thundercracker, liven up, would you? You need to get your head in the game here. The Blue Seeker did a double take, standing at attention. Sorry, it's just, must we really force the humans to be involved in this? Our beef is with the Autobots. These creatures, they aren't even involved in, crash, ow. Much to the Seeker's astonishment, Rodimus had suddenly come in and clobbered Thundercracker over the head, his features twisted in fury. What did I just hear? Ya namby-pamby little scraplet. You call yourself a Decepticon while feelin' sympathetic to these lesser organics. He stomped on Thundercracker's back mercilessly, eliciting a pained wail from him. I oughta stomp you into junk for even, pew 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 pew, gah. Just then, however, Sonar, Runway and Jetstorm all flew in and fired upon the Decepticon general, forcing him off of Thundercracker. The trio landed and transformed, standing over their guardian with determined scowls. Hey, you leave him alone, you big aft shaft. Runway belted out, reaching her hand down to Thundercracker. He's done nothing to deserve this. The mini-cons got a point. Skywarp said, also coming to his brother's defense. Though I don't exactly approve of this softy talk either, it's nothing to try and kill the guy over. He sent a judgmental glare down to his brother. That said, you'd better shape up or ship out, TC. And if ya know what's good for you, you'll take the first option. Exactly. Starscream gripped Thundercracker by the shoulder, hauling him back to his feet. Otherwise, you won't just have to answer to me, but Megatron as well. Is that clear? Thundercracker pursed his lips, but ultimately, he knew what was best for the situation at hand. Yes, brother. Starscream raised an expectant eyerage at him. Yes, sir. He saluted. Down below, Sonar and Jetstorm glanced toward one another in concern. Hey, What you think's up with TC? The former asked. Dunno. Jetstorm shook his head. I mean, he's always had a soft spot for the fleshies and their TV, but, oh. Yeah, it's not hard to figure out what this is stemming from. Runway whispered to her teammates. TC's gotten attached to Earth culture, and he might be going native. The two mechs gasped, the femme raising her hands to calm them down. Just, make sure none of the other cons figure that out, okay? I'll try to talk some sense into him. Before long, the other Decepticons had made their way to the upper deck as well, all of them lined up as Soundwave joined Starscream and Rodimus at the front. 3 cycles remain, the communications officer remarked. Shall we begin the transmission? Rolling his optics, Starscream gave an exasperated sigh. I suppose. Soundwave and Rodimus both stared daggers at him as he went to the edge of the platform they stood upon, raising a hand to garner the soldiers' attention. My fellow Decepticons, it is with great pride and anticipation that I announce that there are but 3 cycles before we commence the destruction of this city. Many Decepticons gave out uproarious cheers at that, with Blastwave, Blitzwing and the Constructicons being the loudest among them. Yes, very good, glad you're all on the same page, however. He pointed a stern finger out toward the crowd, aiming specifically at Lugnet. I must stress that the energon below is volatile. So take care to not blow it up, or else all of us will go with it. The cons promptly turned their heads toward the big brute, making him growl back at them. Grr, I would mind your tongues. And that goes for you, too, Blitzwing. *WHRRTSCHZZCHKT*. Ahahaha. I wasn't going to say anything. The manic triple changer insisted. Aside from Z-fact that your temper can be just as explosive as that punch of yours. Hehehehehe. Conk *WHRRTSCHZZCHKT*. Thank you, I needed that. The calmer face of Blitzwing uttered after Lugnet's blow. Alright, settle down. Rodimus bellowed, stomping to get their focus on him. I don't wanna see any cyber horseplay down there, that clear. He didn't hear any objections, to which he pulled out a small holoviewer from his storage space. Good. Now, before we head down there, a certain someone wanted to say a few words. Placing the disc-shaped device down on the floor, he pressed down on the center lens to activate it. Nitra, we connected. See, Big U, the frustrated hacker confirmed over the comms. The boss bot should be coming in any second now. Once the holoviewer lit up, it began to cast a large hologram above the lens, taking form of the Big Boss himself. Within moments, the transparent, 3-dimensional image of Megatron stood before the crowd, his hands behind his back and his head held high. It only took a single second before the Decepticons all erupted into massive applause, with Lugnet in particular falling to his knees to bow before his leader. Yes, all hail the great and glorious Megatron. I am not worthy, my liege. To be even in the presence of your holographic image is. Oh, for spark's sake, stand up, Lugnet. Megatron ordered exasperatedly. The huge Decepticon wasted little time in doing so. Oh, of course, my lord. Behind him, Blitzwing and Slipstream both facepalmed and shook their heads. Every time with this one, the female seeker muttered. Back on the platform, Starscream, Soundwave and Rodimus placed their fists over their chests in unison, bowing their heads to their leader. My lord, it is time. Soundwave uttered. Indeed, it is. Megatron affirmed, raising his hands out toward his followers. My Decepticons, it is with my greatest condolences that I greet you all today. As you are all aware, I unfortunately cannot be there for this momentous battle. I hope to one day tread across this Earth, myself, to plunder it of its resources once the Autobot resistance has been fully snuffed out. But today, you have the opportunity to take that first major step. His hologram began to pace across the stage. Today, you not only are on the precipice of acquiring a great amount of energon to help revitalize our home world, but to also snuff out the head of the Autobot resistance. Optimus Prime may have powerful allies, but if what was accomplished earlier is any indication, those allies are weak compared to you. Once more, the Decepticons cheered, all while Rodimus smirked to himself. Hey, they don't stand a chance. However, Megatron raised his voice along with a single finger, wanting to make a point. None of you are allowed to kill the Prime. Any other Autobot is fair game, but Optimus is to be brought back to Cybertron, so I may do the deed myself. He clenched his fist, with powerful energy crackling from it. This war began with the both of us, and it shall end with us as well. Am I clear? Yes, sir. The Viacons and Decepticon soldiers all echoed. Just then, the comm links all kicked on as Nitro reported in again, everyone, heads up. I've detected another ground bridge signal, she warned. And this time, there's a lot of Autobot signals pouring in. Starscream wore a sinister smirk. Excellent. Lord Megatron, they are here. Well then, Starscream, unleash the dogs of war. However, the Seeker bowed to him, raising a hand. Indeed, but while I am commanding this battle, I feel it would be more appropriate if you start us off, my liege. We would be honored if you would give us your signature battle cry. HMPH, very well. As much as Megatron knew Starscream was playing mind games with him, he also couldn't resist the opportunity. After all, he hadn't given this command in quite a while. The Autobots' reckoning is at hand, Decepticons. Now go. With clenched hands raised into the air, the Decepticon leader bellowed out, transform, and rise UUUUUP. Upon his command, all at once, every Decepticon present raised their arms in the same fashion, chanting the war cry over and over, rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. They even continued to chant as they ran off the side of the desolation and transformed into their aircraft modes, screaming down toward the city at breakneck speeds. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Those cons who couldn't fly hitched a ride on the backs of those who could, with Barricade and Shadow Striker hopping on Thundercracker and Skywarp respectively. Even Blastwave jovially leapt onto Lugnut as the larger brute transformed into his bomber plane mode. Decepticons, to war. They both roared with boisterous laughter. As this happened, Flatline sighed and shook his head. Ha, those fools. Glad I'm not Goy, AIE. Ahahaha. What are you talking about, Herr Doktor? Blitzwing laughed maniacally. You're coming with us. WHRRTSCHZZCHKT switching to his angry expression, he shouted right in Flatline's face, whether you like it or not. Do you understand that? Ah. Why yes, yes of course. WHRRTSCHZZCHKT good, said Blitzwing's now calmer persona. I loathe to repeat myself. He promptly threw Flatline into the air and transformed into his jet mode, the medic landing on his back before he flew off to battle. Rodimus rolled his eyes at the action, glancing over to Soundwave. PSH, look at him. Bunch of clowns. Like we need wings to get down there. Probably not, Soundwave said, only to then transform, his legs and arms splaying out and fusing into one another as his chest drawer tucked under his body, making way for a pointed aircraft nose and cockpit to pop out from inside. His head folded back into his body as well, and by the end, he had transformed into a downsized B-12 stealth bomber. But it certainly helps. The general sneered at the action. TCH, show off. Well, do you want a lift? No. I'll get down there myself if I have to. Rodimus then, without any hesitation, threw himself off the edge and began plummeting to the ground below. For Lord Megatron. RAAAAHH. Soundwave hovered in the air for a bit, watching in bemusedly as his comrade fell before flying down after him. Starscream was about to go himself, but he was stopped short when Megatron called out to him. Wait, Starscream, the Seeker commander turned back with an inquiring gaze, to which his leader explained, take the Holiviewer with you. It's time that I have a chat with, my old friend, he said with a venomous tone. With his signature smirk, Starscream went back and plucked the device from the ground, chortling, HM. Well, this ought to be interesting. Meanwhile, in the exact center of Mission City, the Autobots' ground bridge opened up and their forces filed out, the bots and heroes conglomerating within, an area that none of the humans were expecting. Many had anticipated being dumped right into the middle of the action, some even prepared to fight right off the bat. But instead, they found themselves inside of an underground parking lot, with nary a vehicle in sight. Where are we? Izuku questioned after he stumbled out last. Yeah, I was ready to start kicking Decepti chumps back into outer space. Katsuki shouted, his voice echoing throughout the empty lot. That makes two of us. Mirko grumbled as well, eyeing Optimus expectantly. What's the deal, Prime? Optimus craned his head down as he opened his abdominal grill plate and reached into it. The deal, Mirko, is that not all of you are prepared to go out into battle. His optics shifted toward those students still in casual wear. Namely, all of you. Kata's eyes widened in realization. Oh crap, you're right. We forgot our hero costumes. We can't go out there in these. Mina exclaimed, grabbing the hem of her purple, poison, tank top. It's not just unfashionable, it's just a bad idea. Indeed. Fortunately, Sector 7 has prepared copies of your costumes for emergency situations such as this. Optimus procured 9 metal briefcases from his storage unit and lowered his hand down, allowing Kata, Momo, Eijiro, Denki, Mina, Istuka, Abara, Setsuna, and Tetsu to come grab them. And this is why I had us bridge here and not out there. This will allow you enough time to change. All Might directed them toward a small building nearby that was built specifically to house restrooms. And there's some conveniently placed rest areas here, as well. I'd advise you all change quickly so we can get out of here. The Decepticons will probably be here at any moment. The teens replied, yes, sir. Before separating into their respective restrooms to change. That left Izuku, Shoto, Tenya, Ochako, Kyoka and Katsuki out with the heroes and the Autobots, though the Greenette also eyed their teachers curiously. Wait, what about all of you? He asked, seeing that All Might, Midnight, Snipe and Smintos were still in their clothes from the villain exercise earlier. How are you going to fight in those? Midnight chortled, wagging a finger at the boy. Young Midoriya, while the school may your costumes for now, you'll soon learn the convenience of having to wear them, under casual clothes. Everybody, strip. All at once, the 4 teachers practically flung their clothes off all at once, revealing that they were wearing their hero costumes underneath. All Might in particular was actually in his Silver Age outfit, the red and white patterned suit contrasting with the blue cape and boots. Ta-da-a-a-a-a-a. Midnight sang. Ahahaha. Quite impressive, isn't it? All Might laughed as the students watched in awe. Keep in mind, though, this'll be easier for some of you more than others. Young Iida, you in particular probably won't have this kind of luxury with your armor. Tenya stiffly raised his hand. I am well aware of that, All Might, sir. But worry not, my brother has modernized the way our family applies our armored costumes. Izuku's attention was diverted to his friend with a big smile. Oh, yeah. Your brother designed a special truck that gets him to the scene of a crime and suits himself up, right? Indeed, it is quite the impressive vehicle. However, Tenya trailed off when he noticed what Izuku was holding. Wait, Midoriya, what do you have there? He inquired, pointing to the metal briefcase. Hey, yeah, Ochako scratched her chin. You're already in your hero costume. Where'd you get that? Glancing down, Izuku lifted the briefcase with a curious gaze of his own. Well, Hatsume just kinda shoved it into my arms before I left. I'm really not sure what is in here, but she said it was some piece of gear that'd help me out. At that, Mirko's ears perked up with intrigue. Ooh, you got a new toy, kid. Well, don't leave us in suspense, let's see it. Kneeling on the floor, Izuku set the briefcase down and undid the clips. Alright, though I don't know how effective this'll be. I mean, May said she left instructions in here, but still. Either way, it would be best to learn about it now before the battle begins. Kamui Woods gave his own input. To hesitate now would be to rob yourself of any advantage you may have over the Decepticon threat. Totally. Mount, Lady said, twirling her hair around her finger. Plus, getting a new accessory is always exciting. And part of the whole fun is figuring out how it works. Izuku sighed and grabbed the top of the briefcase. If you say so. Let's see what we've got. He lifted it up, and was left slack-jawed at what he saw. You've got to be kidding me. Everyone else began leaning in, and they all grew equally as wide-eyed and astonished at the piece of tech within. Though it was mostly the humans who were taken aback by the device, finding it incredibly familiar. No freaking way, Kyoka uttered. Is that what I think it is? Yukio questioned. It can't be, right? There's no way a child could create something like that. I'd say that you're underestimating Hatsume, but you're right. Shoto concurred. For how smart she is, there's no way she could create something like that without some sort of miracle, that are breaking the laws of physics. For all the chatter going on, the Autobots were simply confused. Within the metal briefcase was a strange, oblong device that was somewhat oval-shaped, colored sterling silver with a red center core. Izuku then slowly pulled it out, revealing the bright red armored belt strap that the device was attached to. There were 2 red clips on each hip and a silver clip at the back that had a V emblem molded into it, which only left them all the more curious. What exactly is it? RC questioned. Jazz tilted his head. Yeah, looks like a regular old belt to me. Why are y'all so shocked about it? Because it heavily resembles a Henshin belt. Mackenzie spoke up, bringing everyone's attention to her. Midoriya, dude, between the freaking helmet, the scarf and now this, is your tech girl a Kamen Rider fan? At this point, I think it's easy to assume that. Izuku affirmed. But hey, so am I, so I'm not exactly complaining. Still, there's no way this is an actual Henshin belt. And what exactly does Henshin mean? Eraser asked. Bakugo crossed his arms, unable to hide the amused smirk on his face. PSH, seriously. You bots have been on Earth how long and ya don't even know the Japanese word for transform? The Autobots all eyed one another warily at that. You've gotta be kidding me. Hey, don't blame us if it's easier to just say transform. Springer scolded the blonde. Besides, you kids already call us Transformers, so why mess with something that works? He shook his head and refocused on Izuku. Anyway, you're telling me this belt is supposed to transform you. How's that supposed to work? Yes, I find that very hard to believe. Strongarm voiced as well. Before Izuku could explain, however, another voice interjected. Find what hard to believe. Their sights went over to see Momo and the others all returning, now donned in their hero costumes. However, when the creation user spotted the belt, her eyes lit up with an excited smile. Oh, I see that Hatsume's given you the power belt she's been working on. Fantastic. The group stared incredulously at the mention. Hold on, Yaomomo, you know about this thing already? Kyoka asked. Well, sort of, Momo admitted. To be honest, I'm not certain what it does. I just saw Hatsume working on it a few days ago and commented on it. Her grin wavered a little as she sheepishly added, she promptly tried to hide it and told me to not breathe a word of it to anyone. Most she told me about it was the name, but I had a feeling it was made for Midoriya given the design. Izuku hung his head, still looking upon his new belt. She really is trying to turn me into a Kamen Rider, isn't she? Oof. Without any warning, Mirko nudged him with her elbow and gave him a wink. Well, I'm all for it, kid. You know how many heroes have paid homage that series. Hell, I've seen heroes outside of Japan reference it in their get-ups. She gave him a hearty slap on the back in support. But I think this is the farthest I've seen anyone take it. Go on, slap that belt on and see what it does. Hold on. Izuku insisted, leaning down to pick up the holoprojector inside the briefcase. Hatsume left instructions. Clicking the button, Izuku activated the disc-shaped device, which projected a screen that displayed Mei's eye. It was pretty clear that she was adjusting the camera, though, because within moments, she pulled back so she was fully in frame. Aha, we're rolling. Heya, muscles. If you're watching this, then it probably means I don't have time to explain this baby in person, so pay attention. She pointed straight at him for emphasis. What you're holding there is probably the most advanced piece of gear that I've made yet, the Power Belt Mark V. Now don't be fooled, you're not gonna transform with this, but I figured since you're already 2/3 of the way there, why not finally take the Rider reference all the way? PFF'd, yep, that girl's obsessed. Setsuna commented, earning a couple chuckles and a stern eye from Itsuka. Anyway, you're probably wondering why it's the Mark V. The other 4 exploded. Denki guessed. The other 4 exploded. Mei affirmed, much to everyone's chagrin. But don't worry, this one is guaranteed not to explode. But you're probably wondering what it actually does, so to put it short, it's essentially power storing and building device. She moved her fingers in a jittery way. So, ya know those little zippy zaps that you get when you use your full cowling thingy? Well, when I saw those, I immediately thought, that's a lot of residual power that's just going nowhere. So now, it's got somewhere to go. Izuku blinked in surprise. Huh, I never actually thought about that before. Lifting up a blueprint, May pointed at the device's core. The core of this thing, repurposed from a stasis pod's energy core, is designed to absorb the energy into the belt and then store it for later use to power up your attacks. The clip on the left hip directs the energy to your arms for punch power while the right one brings it down to your legs for some big jumps and kicks. She leaned in close to the camera to give a wink, but it also resulted in Izuku getting a certain view that he hastily blocked with the belt. Just whip that baby on and it'll activate. Happy hitting. Once the message turned off, Izuku pulled the belt away from his face, only for Mirko to suddenly grab it and bring it down to his waist. Well then, let's see what this sucker can do. Wait. Clip WHRR asterisk, eep. But the boy's protests went unheard as the rabbit hero clipped the belt on, allowing it to automatically tighten across his waist, much to his shock. The inner red core lit up as well. Ooh, it even cinches your waist. Mirko grinned cheekily. Nice. Too tight. Just then, May's holographic message reactivated. Oh yeah, if you need the belt to be looser, just press the little red button under the back clip. And to remove it altogether, press down on the V button. The inventor gave one last, happy wave. Alright, that's all. Bye now. Once the message was finally over, Izuku hastily reached down and found said button, allowing the belt to sit more comfortably on him. It was still tight, but much less restricting. Thank God. Okay, so, I just have to do this, concentrating on one for all. Izuku powered himself up to about 18%, and true to May's word, the little green bolts of energy that bounced off his body were drawn right into the belt, changing the core's color to green. Whoa, now that's cool, Mina said with a thumbs up. Hell yeah, Denki pumped a fist. Now let's see that power put to use. But before Izuku could do anything, Aizawa stepped forward and placed a firm hand on his student's shoulder. How about let's not, at least for now. Izuku powered down as the other's focus was drawn to him, his gaze quite serious as he addressed the kids. Right now, I want you all to listen and pay attention to what I say, because I won't repeat myself. What we're doing, bringing you kids into battle, is incredibly illegal, at least in Japan. He's correct, Smintas asserted with a worrisome expression. In other countries, hero schools have much more leeway when it comes to bringing students out into the field like this. Some even allow teachers to chaperone unlicensed students and take them out on patrols. Midnight picked it up from there. But, as you can imagine, the curriculum in Japan is much stricter, and we could all get in serious trouble if the HPCC finds out about this. She sent the students a sympathetic gaze. I realize you're all here on behalf of Bumblebee, but, don't be surprised if all of us get fired and you all get expelled once this is over. The mood of the whole scene was significantly brought down by the news, but then, Optimus spoke up. Well, thankfully, we may not have to worry about that. Everyone eyed him curiously, to which he explained, Agent Fowler has managed to order an entire media blackout across the state of Nevada, meaning that no news stations should be reporting this from here on. While that is reassuring to hear, my friend, we can't be sure it'll be enough. All Might said, his signature smile wavering just a tad. Bill's move is a good one, but remember that locals will still see the students themselves, and from there, word will spread like wildfire. Not to mention, they'll spread word about all of you as well. The secret may just be entirely blown after today. Yeah, of course, it was never the best kept secret to begin with. Izuku uttered before trailing her eyes across his friends. But if this is the end of it, for better or for worse, I wouldn't trade it for anything. He reached his hand out to the others with a confident smile. Same here, Green Bean. Kyoka assured, placing her hand over his. Wouldn't have had it any other way. Momo added herself in as well, prompting the other students to all do the same. Until only one remained. Everyone set their sights over to Bakugo expectantly, the blonde grimacing in annoyance. Really? Dude, come on, Eijiro implored. If we're gonna get expelled, we might as well make a vow to stick together, right? Katsuki groaned as he rolled his eyes, giving in to the request. Oh, for the love of, okay, fine. He placed his hand on top of the pile. Happy. Not the word I'd use, but it's acceptable. Momo concluded as everyone brought their hands back to themselves. Now, Optimus, what will be our battle strategy? The Prime stepped forth, inputting a code into his arm. I am glad you asked, Momo. He extended his arm out and began projecting the same map of Mission City that May had made, complete with the 6 red dots where villain activity was at its peak. There was also a big, blue dot right near the center of the city. Now, our position is right here, in the middle. From here, we will split off into 6 teams to fan out across the city and intercept the villains and the Decepticons. Alright, sounds good, Jazz affirmed. How'll we be split up? I have already decided on that. Optimus pointed to his lieutenant first. Jazz, you and Roadbuster will be Team A. He then proceeded to make more teams one by one. Windblade and Grimlock are Team B. Bulkhead and Sideswipe, you are Team C. RC and Springer are D Team. Strongarm and Flare Up, you will be Team E. And finally, Sunstreaker and Eraser will be Team F. Once Optimus was done listing the teams, however, he was given a slew of inquisitive looks. Prime, I don't know if you've done the math, but you left yourself out of all those teams. Sideswipe pointed out. With a single nod, the Autobot leader acknowledged, I know. Because I will be leading a special 7th team that will be seeking out the Decepticon High Command. His optics went down to a few specific individuals. Accompanying me will be All Might, MT, Lady, Roller, and the Street Action Minicon team. Hold on, what? Mount, Lady exclaimed, pointing at herself. You want ME on your team? Highwire stepped forward with his own point of contention. Yeah, Prime, not gonna lie, I'm just as confused as she is here. He pointed over to Setsuna. After all, I'm supposed to be protecting her. Grinder and Surshok nodded in solidarity with their leader, both standing close to Tetsu and Abara respectively. I understand your concern, Highwire. However, MT, Lady is incredibly important in this battle, and I require her to be absolutely safe. Optimus knelt down in front of the 3 Minicons. And for that, I need the 3 of you. Safeguard's protection abilities are crucial here. If anything, that only confused the blonde heroine more. Wait, what do you mean I'm important to the battle? Are you not telling me something, Prime? Optimus took a deep intake and solemnly nodded. Yes. Unfortunately, there was no better time to bring this up before now, but the Decepticons have an incredibly powerful asset on their side, a combiner. Bringing his arm up again, he projected a holographic image of 6 bots, unfamiliar to most of the humans. These are the Constructicons, 6 bots who have the ability to combine into a single, colossal entity. At his word, the 6 Constructicons were pulled together and the image changed to their combined form. Devastator. Whoa, so that's what you guys faced back at school? Itsuka asked. Yes, Kyoka uttered. We only saw him for a moment, but I'm pretty sure he shook my bones with just his voice. Izuku, Shoto, Tenya, Ochako, and even a reluctant Katsuki all nodded in affirmation. So my job is to take on this big guy. Mount, Lady deduced, biting her bottom lip slightly. Optimus sent her a grave look. Only if you're up for it. We will do our best to disarm him so that it is more of an even fight, but yes, you're, both literally and figuratively, our biggest advantage against Devastator. Both you, the Prime directed his finger toward Grimlock. And that gun that Grimlock is holding. The mention of the weapon made several reel in surprise. Oh, yeah, I was wondering about that. Kata spoke up, nudging her chin up to her guardian. Where'd you get that, Grim? Signal flare made it. Answered the Dinobot leader, bringing up the double-barreled firearm for everyone to see. Repurposed from a fusion cannon, I'm told. Oh, RC piped up, smacking her fist down into her open palm. The one we nabbed from Swindle. I was wondering what you did with that, Prime. Windblade pursed her lips at the revelation. Yeah, here I thought you'd rather just toss it into a dark vault and never look at it again, Prime. But the commander shook his head. Not so. Even I recognize the advantage of having the power of a fusion cannon at our disposal is irreplaceable. Optimus's irises furrowed. However, I felt it appropriate to commission Signal Flare's talents to make it into something different. For obvious reasons, the Autobots all solemnly nodded in understanding as Prime eyed the weapon. Whereas Megatron's fusion cannon is seen as a tool of conquest and oppression, This galaxial laser launcher shall, hopefully, be our salvation on this day. But to continue on, each of the other teams shall consist of 2 leading Autobots and 5 humans. Are we free to choose which team we go on? Setsuna asked. Indeed. But keep in mind, these are the people you will likely be working with for the duration of this fight. Optimus gestured for the humans to approach their chosen Autobots. Now, feel free to group up. In the end, the teams comprised of Team F, Sunstreaker, Eraser, Chargebolt, Vine, Kamui Woods, Smintos, Quick Kick. Team E, Strongarm, Flare Up, Ingenium, Eraserhead, Kamakura, Tiger Claw, Big Fist. Team D, RC, Springer, Uravity, Jinx, Shoto, Snipe, Budo. Team C, Bulkied, Sideswipe, Red Riot, Alien Queen, Midnight, Crust, Real Steel. Team B, Windblade, Grimlock, Kree, Katasaurus, Yukio, Lizardy. Team A, Jazz, Roadbuster, Deku, Earphone Jack, Snake Eyes, Mirko, and Bakugo. Kyoka uttered in disbelief. The ashen blonde folded his arms over his chest. Yeah, say what you want, but I wanna tag along. He jerked his thumb over to Roadbuster. Mainly cause this dude's cool and he seems to get me. The compliment made Roadbuster laugh out loud. Ha ha ha, now that's the spirit. What a coincidence. Mirko grinned from ear to ear. That's part of the reason why I wanted in on this crew, too. She nudged her protege's shoulder. Along with tagging with you again, of course. Let's show him what we're made of, kid. Aha, why yeah, Izuku affirmed meekly, still witnessing the intense glare off between his best friend and his former friend. Oh boy, this probably won't end well. Huh. He perked his head up at Snake Eyes touching his shoulder, only for the silent ninja to move up and stand between the 2 glaring teens. Bakugo was immediately perturbed by the mysterious man's intrusion. Huh, what you want, ninja dude? Got a problem? In response, Snake Eyes pointed between the 2 of them with both hands, only to then firmly shake his head from side to side. He's not having any of it. Kyoka translated. How the hell do you? When you've been around Snake for a while, you start to get what he's saying, even when he can't say anything. Kyoka took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. And he's right. There's a lot more at stake right now. Just don't try and make a mess out of things, okay? Or I guess, more of a mess in your case. Hey, Cha-kun. The entire group gasped as the lot's foundation was rocked around them, resulting in small bits of debris falling from the ceiling. Many braced themselves against one another as the place shook, with Roadbuster bringing out his rifle immediately. We might wanna wrap things up here, cuz it looks like we've got company. Yes, the time has come. Optimus hastily raised his hand out toward the team. Autobots, transform and roll. Outside, quickly. Following his command, the bots all changed form, aside from Grimlock, and hurriedly ushered the humans to climb into them before making their way up out of the underground parking lot. Once they were all out, they were immediately met with a battalion of Viacons, who didn't hesitate on continuing their assault. Though notably, these weren't the standard Viacons most of them had come to know. These ones were white, mostly white with smatterings of silver and black rather than black with purple and silver. There they are. Blast them. One of the Viacons ordered, only for a certain blonde to jump off of Roadbuster and unleash a powerful explosion of his own. How's this for a blast? Bakugo hollered, his attack encompassing the Viacon's right leg just below the knee, blowing it off entirely. HMPH, not as tough as those other cons from before. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Yeah, Viacons tend to be squishier. Roadbuster said, ready to unleash his own heavy fire back at them. Now stay low, kid, this is gonna get, huh? But without any warning, Mirko suddenly blew past him and let out an ear-piercing battle cry, HRYYYAAAAAHH. And within seconds, she began bouncing around the opposition, striking at their joints with her powerful feet one by one until several were left practically dismantled. Haha, I forgot how awesome this felt. Come on, cons. Y'all wanna tangle with this bunny? Roadbuster was left awestruck, watching as the young organic woman continued to bounce all over the cons and dismember them, leaving them disarmed and helpless. Whoa, well, that was unexpected. Shouldn't be. Katsuki smirked. Mirko's famous for beaten bad guys to a pulp. HRAH. With another concussive blast, the explosion user propelled himself into the fray and started doing much the same as the pro, blowing off Decepticon kneecaps with impressive precision. It wasn't long before the other heroes and students began to join in as well, with Yukio giving an aggravated groan. Mirko. I swear to God, you are uncontrollable. Within seconds, she transformed into her dragon form and, with a flap of her wings, flew in to stomp on a Viacon that was aiming its arm cannon at Mirko behind her back. The unexpected move managed to take even Grimlock aback. Whoa, he craned his head down toward Keita. You weren't kidding. She really is the dragon hero, huh? Told ya. Keita grinned. Get him, Miss Yukio. Mirko's eyebrows perked up and she turned to her friend, who started bashing Viacons away with her claws and tail. Thanks for the assist, Coco. We're on the battlefield, Mirko, the draconic lady growled. Would you please use our hero names? Yeah, sure. Mirko waved. Now come on, let's keep going. The next to leap into the carnage was All Might, who charged headlong into a big group of Viacons. Alabama, SMAAAASSH. With a single lunge through the crowd, he sent most of the cons flying into the surrounding buildings, all of them crumpling into broken heaps. He was followed soon after by Smintos, who manipulated the very streets beneath them to create a wave of concrete and pavement that sent many more airborne. Snipe was being a bit more precise in taking out enemies, meanwhile, opting to shoot out their optics so that they couldn't see. From there, Crust came in and shot out his jagged shields from his hands at the mass-produced soldiers, blowing off their hands and knees to finish them off. Off to the side, the hero team known as the Lurkers were employing their own strategies, with Kamui Woods entangling several Viacons in his branches to render them immobile, leaving them open targets for either edge shot to dismantle them with his razor-thin body or for MT. Lady to suddenly grow and then stomp on more of them. And then, of course, there were the Joes. Tiger Claw was on a rampage, ripping and tearing out the chests of several Viacons and spilling energon everywhere. Kamakura, meanwhile, was being more conservative, not wanting to use his quirk just yet. So he reserved to simply shoot at any incoming cons with a laser pistol. Budo had ignited his sword with energy from his quirk and was joining Snake Eyes in slicing and dicing them up, leaving very little to recover from. Finally, Jinx and Quick Kick were simply standing in place as two Viacons charged at them. At first, Keita was about to warn them, but Kyoka held her back. Hold on, watch. This is gonna get good. Not 2 seconds after she said that, both Viacons suddenly tripped on pieces of street rubble that they didn't see and fell forward, their heads landing right in front of the two women. From there, Quick Kick swung her bare foot right into the two cons' faces, concaving their heads in and knocking them right out. Jinx, have I mentioned how much your quirk rocks? Kyoka went over to the duo, offering them high fives. And obviously, so does yours, Quick Kick. Hee, thanks, Kyo, earphone jack. Kenzie glanced back and forth before leaning down and whispering, hey, you sure you don't wanna switch with someone on my team? Ya seem really put off by that Bakugo guy. Kyoka glanced behind her, watching as the aforementioned boy literally kicked a Viacon while it was down. Thanks, but between Jazz, Izuku and Snake Eyes, I think he'll be alright, hopefully. Just then, a terrified yelp made the punk rocker's ears perk up, leading her to see a trembling Viacon, the only one left from its battalion still standing. However, he quickly fell to his knees, unable to comprehend what had just happened. How is this possible? Why you're just a bunch of small organics. Putting on her best scowl, Kyoka strode up to him, plugging her earphone jacks into her wrist speakers. There's a lot more to us, small organics, than meets the eye, dumbass. BWAAAAMM. She unleashed a massive wave of sound at the Viacon, knocking him on his aft. You must be one of Soundwave's men, right? Tell us where he is. Now. I don't know where the commander is, honest. BWAAAM**, ow. His hands flying up to his audio receptors, the Viacon convulsed in agony at another sonic attack. Don't lie to me. Kyoka belted out. I'm not in the mood. Tell me where Soundwave is or else the next one blasts your ears off. Earphone jack, that is enough. Optimus ordered, placing a foot between her and her target. "We are Autobots, we do not torture our enemies." Seeing her glare redirected at him, he sighed and furthered, "Think about this, Kyoka, what did this individual Viacon do to earn your wrath? He is simply doing what he was ordered to do, correct?" Pursing her lips in frustration, Kyoka's fist shook at her sides, trying to hold herself together. I'm just still hurting, I know," Optimus assured. "We all are. But we cannot allow our emotions to dictate our actions in this battle. We must remain level-headed, lest we make unwise choices we cannot take back." Kyoka swallowed hard, ultimately conceding to Prime's point. "Right, I understand, Optimus. Good, I'm glad." Now, Optimus set his sights back toward the Viacon, extending a hand. "If you will allow us to take you prisoner, I promise that no further harm will come to you and your men. Do you accept?" The Viacon hastily got to his hands and knees, bowing his head to the Prime. "Why yes, of course. I'll comply, just please, don't." Pow! All of a sudden, a laser blast came down from out of nowhere and shot the hapless Viacon right in the back of his head, instantly offlining him. As his body fell limp, nearly everyone screamed in fright, backing away quickly. What the hell?" Crust shouted. The Autobots, however, drew their optics up, glowering in contempt at the bot who shot their would-be prisoner. "Death awaits all who choose to desert the Decepticon cause," Starscream proclaimed as he lowered down out of the sky, aiming his null rays at the other foot soldiers. "What a disgrace. You're all supposed to be elite Viacon soldiers and yet you've been bested by mere organics. Those of you who can stand, stand." Following his orders, the battered Viacons who were otherwise still able to fight got up, shakily aiming their blasters at the do-gooders. Well, this just went from bad to worse. Tetsu winced. "Who's the bot with the high heels?" Katsuki brazenly asked, more perplexed than anything. "SNRT. Good one." Ochako stifled a laugh, only to shake her head and refocus. Anyway, that's Starscream. He's the second in command of the Decepticons." Her answer made Katsuki's eyes shift back and forth between her and Starscream, only for him to burst out laughing seconds later. "PFFT, ahahaha. You've gotta be kiddin' me." He jerked his thumb toward the now offended-looking Seeker. "You're tellin' me this dude is the guy under the guy in charge? What a load. If this is what the second banana looks like, I'd like to see who the guy above him is." His statement earned an incredulous stare from Prime, and a sinister smirk from Starscream. "Oh, so you do you? Well, you crude, young fleshling." Reaching behind him, the Air Commander procured the holiviewer and tossed it out, allowing the device to hover in midair as it activated once more. "Your wish is my command." His words left Prime even more astonished as, from the device, the holographic image of an unfamiliar bot was projected. At least, unfamiliar to all of the humans. He was a very tall, very blocky robot with squared-off shoulders, angular legs that sloped down from the knees all the way to the bottom of his feet, and his helm was what could only be described as bucket-shaped. They couldn't even tell what he transformed into at first, but upon closer inspection, it was obviously some form of tank. Thanks to him standing with his back toward them, they could see that there were treads in his legs, a small barrel sticking up over his right shoulder, and of course, the giant cannon affixed to his right arm. And that's when many of them began putting the pieces together. Oh my god. Midnight uttered, ushering the students back. "Kids, over here, now." The Autobots, meanwhile, were all so stunned that none of them could speak. The Decepticon leader was right there, not physically, but even as a hologram, his presence was palpable. Well, after all these eons, to think that I would find you here." Finally turning around, Megatron, with an insidious smirk, met Prime's optics. "But then again, I suppose it's all but fitting. The once great prodigy, Optimus Prime, fallen so hard that he has to retreat to a backwater world to take refuge during a losing war. An incredible dose of irony, wouldn't you say, old friend?" Optimus' glare hardened at the bot, one who he used the term, old friend, with rather loosely. "Megatron," he said venomously. "What was so important that you felt the need to call in an appearance?" Prime brought out his Energon axe. "Have you become so complacent that you're not willing to finish this in person?" "Quite the contrary, for I do plan on finishing this face to face." Megatron insisted with a contemptuous sneer. But I would rather not sully my hands on such an insignificant world such as this. Rather, I would rather this be concluded where it all began, Cybertron. With you begging for mercy, chained at my feet. Gah, sheesh, man. The mood was suddenly undercut, by Bakugo, of course. Mind not telling us about your sick kinks and just get to the point already. Kachan, shut up. Izuku snapped, dragging the explosion user back toward them. Rather than being left irritated, however, Megatron was, somewhat amused. So, the young humans from that, sports festival, really have joined you, I suppose it was all but an inevitability. He then spotted Izuku and Shoto as well. Both of them, upon further inspection, and of course, the green one as well. The three boys all froze as Megatron addressed them, their breath hitched in their throats. You know about us. Shoto uttered. You saw the sports festival. Izuku added. Portions of it, yes. Megatron narrowed his optics at the trio. Enough to know that the three of you are a problem. All Might swiftly put himself between the boys and their new adversary. Leave them alone, Megatron. If you threaten our planet, your business is with me. Ah, yes, you must be this, All Might, I've heard so much about. Megatron sneered. You don't seem that impressive. Come to Earth yourself and say that again. The number one hero countered, his smile unwavering. I dare you. The Decepticon leader scoffed as he refocused on Optimus. It matters not. Soon, this entire planet will be drained of its energon and left a lifeless husk floating through the cosmos. His smirk returned tenfold. And once it is completed, I'm sure it will weigh on your conscience all the way back to Cybertron. You could have prevented it, though. Unicronus gave you the option to surrender. Ah, and that reminds me, how did you like my little surprise? Phew. A sudden laser blast shot through Megatron's hologram, directing his attention over to a heaving, seething flare-up. Her metal teeth were grit together and she kept one of her pistols trained on Megatron, even knowing she couldn't really hurt him. Ha, ha, you bastard. She screamed. I should have known you bargained in on our creation day party was a bad omen. Megatron remained stone-faced at her accusation. Ah, flare up, understand that I did not target Hot Rod intentionally. He just happened to be at the wrong place at the right time. Anyone on that mission could have become my harbinger of doom, it just happened to be him. Perhaps, but in doing so, you have delivered the lowest of blows. Optimus asserted. Hot Rod did not deserve that fate, and the humans do not deserve this fate. His glare intensified as he continued. I know you, Megatron, you wouldn't have spared this planet, or any other, if it meant getting what you want. You were always the sharp one, Optimus. Megatron conceded, slowly raising a hand toward his second-in-command. A pity that it has to be this way. Starscream. On that note, Starscream transformed and activated his comlink, blasting away from the scene before any of the Autobots could follow. Decepticons, attack. Ahahaha. Chava-kun. All at once, several explosions range out across Mission City, and within moments, the Autobots and heroes were greeted by billowing, black smoke, and the sound of innocent people screaming in terror. They were left shocked for only a second, only for Megatron to tauntingly wave them off. Have fun, Autobots. Ha 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 ha, chhhhzzktt. Pow pow powpp pow. After stomping on the Holoviewer, Flare-Up immediately ducked as the elite Viacons started firing upon them. The other Autobots did so as well, propping their bodies over the humans for protection. We need to move, now. The scout cried out. And, we need these buggers out of the way. Grim. Kata shouted. You know what to do. You know I do. Grimlock affirmed, stepping away from the team to aim his new weapon at the line of Viacons. He ignored the small singes of pain as their lasers bounced off his hide and pulled the trigger, unleashed a pair of deadly lasers upon the Viacons. He swiped his arm from left to right, burning through all of them like a hot knife through butter. And then, boom! Every Viacon was blown to smithereens all at once, their body parts flying in every possible direction. Class dismissed. Grimlock quipped, peering down to his laser launcher in surprise. And what a lesson that was. Anyway, we should get moving. Indeed, Optimus affirmed, hurriedly going to his trailer to open it up. We have a job to do and people to protect. Strongarm, heads up. MHA. The cadet uttered, only to be taken aback when Prime's trailer opened up and none other than the Mini-Con Council emerged, the trio making their way toward her. Side. Checkpoint, anti-blaze. She saluted dutifully. Sirs, I'm glad to see you've joined us. Wouldn't miss it for the world, kid. Side grinned, pointing one of his large fingers at the cadet. But enough lollygagging. It's time we get to work. Anti-Blaze placed a fist over his chest. We'll be accompanying your group, naturally. We'll be counting on you to use our power wisely once again. Nudging his chin up at her, Checkpoint added, so if ya see that chopper fem again with Dueler and his crew, don't be shy to use us. Of course, sirs. Strongarm said before she and Flare Up transformed into their vehicle modes, all while their assigned humans grouped up with them. Let's do our best. As the other Autobots began to do the same, however, Optimus stopped a certain yellow bot in his tracks. Sunstreaker, wait. Reaching into his storage space, the Prime procured one more thing and tossed it to the yellow Lambo twin. Take this. It'll be quite useful to you, I'm sure. MHA. At first, Sunstreaker almost fumbled the item, but once he had it secured in his grasp, his optics widened. The Polarity Gauntlet. A-, are you sure, Prime? I am. You are one of the few Autobots here who aren't heavily armed, so I'm sure that you'll make good use of it. Optimus gave him a thumbs up. Use it to protect your human allies well, is that clear? Sunstreaker saluted without hesitation. Yes, sir. Will do. Excellent. Now, Autobots, transform and roll to the rescue. Prime thrust a finger out toward the city. We have people to save, villains to quash, and Decepticons to stop. Yes, sir. The Autobots and humans all echoed, following his command to the letter. Before Jazz and Roadbuster's group left, however, Izuku took a moment to go over and wish luck to both of his mentors. Hey, I know I probably shouldn't be worried since it's you two, he said with an awkward grin. But, be safe out there, okay? All Might set a hand down on Izuku's shoulder, giving him a thumbs up. We'll be alright, young Midoriya. Really, we should be the ones telling you this. Prime knelt down as well. Indeed, you may have May's latest invention, but don't get too carried away with it. I won't. Izuku acknowledged, placing a hand on the belt itself. I just hope it works. Hey, Deku. Katsuki shouted over. What's the hold up? Roadbuster wants to get the damn lead out. Izuku rolled his eyes and called back, I'm coming. Give me a second. He shook his head and jerked his thumb toward the group. Guess that's my cue to leave. Good luck out there, you guys. He nodded over to MT. Lady and the Mini-Cons. And you guys, too. Will do, kid. The blonde woman placed her hands on her hips. Now go on, it's time to get things started. The Greenette spun around on his heel and quickly made his way toward his team, where he was met with an abrasive Bakugo. About time. Whatever happened to, we can't waste time, and all that crap? Izuku deadpanned at his longtime bully. Forgive me if I wanted to see Prime and All Might off first. Anyway, I'm here now, so let's not argue about this any further, please. Katsuki merely scoffed and turned his head away, walking toward Jazz with Mirko and Snake Eyes already in the front seats. Izuku let out a frustrated sigh, but was jostled from his irritation thanks to a nudge from Kyoka. What have I gotten myself into? Hey, you're the one who said it was okay for him to come along. Kyoka said, giving him a pointed look. If it were up to me, we'd have left him to fume at base. But now, we're stuck with him. She reached around and smacked him on the back. So suck it up and let's get going. The duo shuffled their way into the Porsche, with Kyoka making sure she took the middle seat between Izuku and Katsuki. Yo, Jazz. Bring out those subwoofers, I wanna play something. At first, the lieutenant was surprised at the request, but he complied all the same as Kyoka plugged her phone into his radio. Sure, Kyo. Dunno if it's a good idea, though. The cons will hear us coming a mile away. Exactly. The earphone jack user wore a determined scowl. I want to make sure they know that their harbingers of doom are coming for them. PFF'd, that's so. Bakugo jeered. What did ya have in mind? Giving him a silent, deadpan stare, Kyoka scrolled through her songs until she found the one she wanted. Then, right as Jazz's subwoofers shifted out, they were instantly greeted by loud guitars and powerful vocals. Insert, War Pigs, by Black Sabbath. As the classic rock song played, Kyoka sat back down and proclaimed, "If Soundwave wants to use one of my favorite songs against me, I'll just fire back with another." Slowly but surely, Katsuki's head started bobbing along to the beat, a begrudging smirk forming on his lips. "Ya know, ears, I don't respect you for a lot of things, but this. I think I can get behind this. Wow, I think that's the first compliment adjacent thing you've ever said to me." "Yeah, well don't get used to it." The ashen blonde hollered to the front seat, "Now come on. We've got cons to crack." Mirko was all for it while Snake Eyes remained silent in his seat. "My sentiments exactly, kid. Let's roll, Jazz." With screeching tires and blaring speakers, Jazz sped off through the streets, followed closely behind by Roadbuster. The battle for Mission City had officially begun. And this of Season 2 Part 50 of this What If. Hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.